What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's filthiest pitches of the day. Remember, before we get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Be a part of the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube. What are you waiting for? And now, without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start with Logan Webb, who had 5 Ks in 7 innings, giving up 2 runs. He had this nasty slider and painted sinker, as well as this two-seamer that had 18 inches of run. That's filthy. He outdueled Tony Gonsolin, who had 7 Ks in 5 2/3 innings, but gave up 7 runs. He did have this slider and filthy splitters, as well as this splitter and K-strut, or K-hop. Chris Bassett had 2 Ks in 3 2/3 innings, giving up 3 earned runs and had this elevated cutter. And he faced John Gray, who only had 2 Ks in 2 1/3 innings and gave up 6 earned runs, but had this wicked slider and curveball. Zack Greinke had 4 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 4 runs. He had this riveting auto K, as well as this curveball to Ohtani to get the K. But then Ohtani lived up to that famous adage, "Fool me once, shame on..." You can't get fooled again, as George Bush and J. Cole would say.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
And took Greinke's next curveball over the fence. Wave your hand if you're the MLB home run leader and 4th in the majors in strikeouts on the bump. Or maybe Ohtani was waving a beer man down to get a couple of brews. Greinke faced Tyler Anderson, who had 6 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 2 runs and had these changeups. Zack Wheeler had 4 Ks in 6 scoreless innings. He had this fastball at the knees, this curveball, and this sweeper for a sword. And he battled Hogan Harris, who had 7 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 2 earned runs. Harris relied on these fastballs, and you can see they're kind of nasty because of his crossfire delivery. It kind of looks like he's stepping to the dugout as he delivers the ball to home plate. Jesus Luzardo, the Jesus Lizard, had 5 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 2 runs thanks to his fastballs and slider. Yanni Chirinos had 3 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, giving up 3 earned runs, and had this splitter. He faced Joe Musgrove, who only had 1 K in 6 innings, gave up only 2 runs, and had this fastball. Clark Schmidt had 3 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, giving up 2 earned runs, and had this knuckle curve and fastball at the knees, which caused the Ripper to put Kike Hernandez on the eternal IL. He faced Caleb Ort, who had this 98-mile-an-hour heater, and Stanton brilliantly moved away before the Ripper could kill again. Brilliant anticipation. Louis Varland had this cutter for a sword. Tanner Bybee had these changeups and 6 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 3 runs. Charlie Morton had these breaking balls and ended up with 8 strikeouts. Luis Ortiz had 6 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 run thanks to his sliders and this painted slider and awesome K skip. He also had this nasty changeup, and he faced Freddie Peralta, who went 6 innings with 9 Ks, nice, and gave up 2 runs on only 2 hits. He had this 97-mile-an-hour heater and this 95-mile-an-hour cheese at the knees, and also had these wicked breaking balls. Luis Severino had 6 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 3 earned runs thanks to these overpowering fastballs. And he battled Brayan Bello, who was brilliant, with 8 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up only 1 run on 4 hits. Bello relied on his mix of fastballs, changeups, and sliders, and here's an overlay of his slider and fastball, and you can see how well those 2 pitches tunnel, and why as a hitter, hitting is basically a guess. Bryce Miller had 6 Ks in 7 innings, giving up only 1 run, thanks to his fastballs and slider. And here's an overlay of his fastball and slider. And you can see why Bryce Miller, even though he's fastball heavy, should flip in a few sliders. He can tunnel it with his fastball, and it prevents hitters from cheating and just looking fastball, even though his fastball is one of the best in baseball. Miller faced yesterday's filthiest starting pitcher of the day, Lance freaking Lynn. Lance Lynn had an amazing 16 strikeouts in 7 innings. Yep, 21 outs, and 16 of them were by strikeout. And he got an amazing 33 whiffs this game, which, since 2008, the only pitchers to have more in a game have been Clayton Kershaw, Jacob deGrom, and Danny Duffy. Rather than being his usual fastball-heavy self, he varied his pitches, throwing fastballs, cutters, sliders, curveballs, changeups, and sinkers, and spread them out really well. He ended up with an amazing 54% whiff rate on the game on all of his pitches, and a 75% whiff rate on sliders, and a 71% whiff rate on his changeup. A career day for Lance Lynn, and he tied the franchise record for strikeouts in a game. To give one example of how he got this done, here's an overlay of his cutter and sinker. And you can see how well he tunnels those pitches and how they end up in very different places. I really love this less predictable Lance Lynn. In the College World Series, Hurston Waldrep had 12 Ks thanks to his splitters and fastballs. Expect his name to be called pretty early in the upcoming MLB draft. Here's a look at his filthy splitter from a home plate view, and you can see why that splitter is one of the filthiest pitches in college baseball. Now onto my filthiest relievers. Lucas Sims had these breaking balls and soared. Chris Murphy had these curveballs. Junior Marte had these sinkers and slider. Kenley Jansen had these nasty cutters. Nick Pivetta had these elevated fastballs, and I overlaid them with his curveball so you can see why he throws so many elevated fastballs. His curveball is really good, and that elevated fastball starts in the same plane as the curveball and then keeps its plane while the curveball dives to the dirt. Devin Williams had this overpowering fastball and airbender. Shintaro Fujinami had these flames. That 102-mile-an-hour painted fastball was called a ball. That pitch cannot get any better. And his heaters overall looked really good. In the non-Flames division, Josh Rojas got a K on this 64-mile-an-hour pitch. Camilo Doval had this 100-mile-an-hour Flames. Josh Hader got a sword on this slider and got a K on this fastball. Phil Maton had these wicked breaking balls. Felix Bautista had this overpowering 102-mile-an-hour fastball. Justin Topa had this wicked two-seamer that had 21 inches of run. Look at that thing go. Jason Foley was outstanding. Look at these vicious two-seamers. Just a great performance by Foley. Ben Heller picked up 3 more Ks for the Braves thanks to his fastballs and changeup. Tommy Kahnle got 3 Ks thanks to this auto K, a questionable strike, and then this slider. And my filthiest reliever of the day was Jordan Hicks for these unconscionable flames. We're talking 103 and 104 mile an hour two-seamers. And one of those 104 mile an hour two-seamers broke 20 inches. What are you supposed to do with that? My man is a cheat code. And now, my pitching ninja moment of Zen. This pretty much sums up Father's Day. Younger brother gets handed a ball, throws it back, older brother starts getting upset, and dad has to make everything right. What is up, everybody? My picks of the day today are a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to start out with Michael Wacha for 5 Ks or more, take James Paxton for 7 Ks or more, top it off with Corbin Burns for 7 Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?